I call to order the 12th meeting of the Commission for Social Development at its 62nd session. This morning, the Commission will consider the draft proposals before it. The documentation for this meeting is listed in today's Journal of the United Nations. I first invite the Commission to resume its consideration of Agenda Item 2, entitled Adoption of the Agenda and Other Organizational Matters, in order to take action on Draft Decision E/CN5/2024/L3, entitled Priority Theme of the 63rd Session of the Commission for Social Development, submitted by the Vice Chair, Ms. Carla Maria Carlson of the Dominican Republic, on the basis of informal consultations. I wish to inform the Commission that the draft decision has no program budget implications. Does any delegation wish to make a statement in connection with the draft decision? May I take it that the Commission wishes to adopt draft decision E/CN5/2024/L3 and recommend it? Oh, I'm sorry, I think there is a request for the floor. Yes, please go ahead. Cameroon, please take the floor. Okay. Well, I understand that it was not exactly a request for the floor, so I shall proceed. May I take it that the Commission wishes to adopt draft decision E/CN5/2024/L3 and recommend it to the Economic and Social Council for its adoption? I am seeing no objection, and I am going to say that it is so decided. Does any delegation wish to make a statement after the adoption of the draft decision? Mexico, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mexico is grateful to the Dominican Republic for introducing the draft decision and also to the facilitator for successfully guiding the negotiation process, taking into account the positions of the delegations. Alongside this, my delegation feels that it is necessary to reiterate its position in relation to the selection of priority themes for the subsidiary bodies of the Economic and Social Council. Resolution 7529A of the General Assembly expressly mandates the same assembly to continue approving a main theme for the high-level political forum on sustainable development and for the Economic and Social Council. This resolution also mandates the subsidiary bodies of the Council, including this Commission for Social Development, to adopt its own themes in coherence with the main theme of the High-Level Political Forum and the Council. This is about building synergies and contributing to the work of the Council. In addition to the above, Resolution 2023/12, adopted just last year, of the resolution of ECOSOC in relation to the organization and methods of work for the future of the Commission for Social Development, precisely recalls this mandate that falls onto the subsidiary bodies according to 75/290A of the General Assembly. Madam Chair, as recorded in the accounts of this Commission, my delegation has continuously, for several years, expressed its concern for the lack of alignment between the priority themes of the Council with the main theme of the High-Level Political Forum and ECOSOC. Indeed, it is of concern that it is not possible to achieve full alignment, insofar as this necessarily implies a lack of compliance between the mandates. The lack of alignment this year, as well as in previous years, has been generated before the fact that at the date of closure of this Commission, we do not know the theme of the High-Level Political Forum and ECOSOC at this time. From our perspective, there are two possible solutions to this issue. Firstly, it would be that this Commission wait before deciding its priority themes until after the main theme of the High-Level Political Forum and ECOSOC have been selected. The second alternative would be for ECOSOC to define its main theme and that of the High-Level Political Forum with sufficient lead time in order for this Commission and for the Council and other subsidiary bodies to be in a position to follow the alignment that has been set out. We have shared these concerns also with ECOSOC. We once again are grateful to the delegation of the Dominican Republic for their efforts in trying to align this 63rd session of this Commission with the work of ECOSOC and the High-Level Political Forum by linking the proposed theme with the implementation of Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. As part of our constructive spirit, my delegation did not impede negotiation of the priority theme that ended up being selected, which will be of great importance next year as part of the 30th anniversary of the Copenhagen Declaration. Nevertheless, once again, Mexico reiterates its call for this Commission to find a means of action to allow for full alignment of its work with the main theme of the Political Forum and ECOSOC. We would not like precedents to be created over a lack of compliance between mandates of the GA. We trust that the opening of the dialogue will bring us to find this path, and we urge members of the Commission to get to work. I thank you.
Thank you, Mexico. If there is no further request for the floor, the Commission has concluded its consideration of Agenda Item 2. I now invite the Commission to resume its consideration of Agenda Item 3 in order to take action on two draft resolutions. The Commission will first consider Draft Resolution E/CN5/2024/L5 entitled Promoting Care and Support Systems for Social Development. I thank the representatives of Argentina and Chile for having facilitated the consultations on the draft resolution. I wish to inform the Commission that the draft resolution has no program budget implications. I now invite the distinguished representative of Chile to introduce draft resolution E/CN5/2024/L5 on behalf of the co-sponsors. Chile, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Excelencias, estimados.
Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, Argentina and my country, Chile, have the honor of introducing the draft resolution entitled Promoting Care and Support Systems for Social Development on behalf of a group of countries made up of Brazil, Colombia, the Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Mexico, and Paraguay. We are introducing this resolution to the Commission for Social Development because our countries are convinced of the need to recognize and attribute value to the work of caregiving and support as a comprehensive component of the well-being of our citizens. And this is something that states should tackle. This is work that we should address from the perspective of social protection with a sense of collective responsibility that involves individuals, families, communities, states, and the private sector. It goes beyond interactions that occur on a daily basis within homes. The resolution that brings us together today seeks to encourage member states to explore the benefits of implementing this transformative agenda. Work in the home and unpaid caregiving continues to be invisible, undervalued, and it is not accounted for in national statistics. Very often, it is not even taken into account when social and economic policies are formulated. For this reason, our goal is for this resolution to represent a first step towards valuing the non-remunerated caregiving work and to recognize and compensate its economic value. In fact, the ILO already estimates that the value of this domestic unremunerated work is the equivalent of 9% of global GDP, roughly $11 trillion. The care agenda is fundamental in achieving gender equality. According to ILO data, globally, women carry out, on average, 3.2 times more unpaid care work than men. According to the Secretary General, women aged between 25 and 34 years of age have 1.2 times a greater probability of living in extreme poverty than men. And this is due to the disproportionate burden of caregiving that falls to women. Women are at the heart of this agenda, being overrepresented amongst those that provide care and do this work between one generation and the next, and being the main receivers of the care in the long term. The greatest probability of interruptions in professional career, part-time work, lower income, and concentration in the informal sector, as well as dedicating most time to unremunerated care work, accumulates over time. It is also added to other gender inequalities that can be experienced over the course of a lifetime. This results in women having less in terms of asset savings and benefits of social protection. For this reason, for us, it is clear that our social development approach must recognize, redistribute, and value the care and domestic work that goes unremunerated, and this is fundamental in achieving gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls in line with SDG number 5. It is also essential that we recognize and value this work while protecting the rights of the paid care workers and guaranteeing decent work for them. In most countries where income is high, and also in lots of middle-income countries, essential care services are provided by a growing proportion of migrant workers, essentially women, who work in an informal environment without access to full social protection and basic labor rights. Even more important is the fact that the agenda of care is one that is of benefit to society as a whole. Providing care and support does not simply mean attending to the physical needs of people. It also involves relationships that are beneficial to emotional well-being and mental health. It is worth pointing out that over the lifetime of a person, this can be both as a caregiver and as a recipient of care. And this means that it is a comprehensive path in terms of supporting the well-being of people over the course of their lives. This agenda then has at its heart the voices of those who receive care and support, including older persons, persons with disabilities, and children. And last but not least, the group wishes to express its sincere thanks to all the delegations who constructively negotiated this document and contributed with their great experience to make this text an enriching experience with a variety of opinions and cultural values. We hope that member states will continue developing this agenda and make it their own so that it can be best adapted to the needs and aspirations of its citizens. We recognize that more progress is needed in order to achieve our goal. Nevertheless, today we hope that it will serve as a reminder for all of us of the essential role that care plays and the support in our daily lives, and to reaffirm our commitment to take urgent measures in order to guarantee that no one is left behind. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
I thank the distinguished permanent representative of Chile. And on this note, I will now give the floor to the Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to announce that since the submission of the draft resolution, and in addition to those delegations listed on the L document, the following countries have also become sponsors of L5: Austria, Cyprus, Germany, Greece, Luxembourg, Malta, Peru, the Philippines, Poland, Portugal, Slovenia, and Spain. If any other delegations wish to co-sponsor L5, please signify by pressing the microphone button. I see Morocco. That completes the list. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I thank the Secretary. Does any delegation wish to make a statement in connection with the draft resolution? I see Costa Rica, Belgium, and Egypt. You have the floor in that order. Costa Rica.
Muchas gracias, señora Presidenta.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Costa Rica makes this general statement, firstly, in order to welcome the adoption of 4 important texts this morning and in order to commend the work of the Chair and the Bureau. The resolutions that will be followed, as well as the Summit of the Future that is being prepared. We support all of these initiatives. We also welcome the initiative entitled Promoting Care and Support System for Social Development, presented by a group of Latin American countries. We are grateful for the dedicated work and efforts of these delegations. They have presented an ambitious text and also ensured that the final text actually balance the different visions of the delegations. In this context, we wish to highlight 3 points. Firstly, Costa Rica is committed to implementing Agenda 2030 and Goal 5.4. For us, this implies the shared responsibility or joint responsibility over a number of actors, from the family, the state, private companies, and all those who are invited to assume these responsibilities, but also human beings as part of a public good and going beyond a political and economic level. Secondly, we recognize that care is not only inherent in reproduction and sustainability of life, but actually a right that involves addressing the needs of people in situations of vulnerability, including persons with disabilities, children, and older persons. This right has been recognized in treaties of human rights that are both regional and international in scope. Similarly, the right to care should also take into account those who provide the care. For this reason, states are being called to ensure that, under the principles of equality and non-discrimination and universality, that these rights are enjoyed. Thirdly, Costa Rica has taken normative and public policy steps towards the creation of a national system of care for dependent persons. This should facilitate care in society and provide support for caregivers. We are committed to developing the right to care. It is based on this that we have supported in writing the request of a consultative opinion through the Latin American Court of Human Rights in 2023 on this subject. This is extremely relevant for Costa Rica, and we're very interested in the interpretation of the Regional Tribunal on Human Rights as regards the scope of the state in terms of the right to care. We are therefore delighted by this resolution as a foundation for our common understanding of the human right to care, including its interdependency with other rights, including the right to decent housing, health, education and work, and others. I thank you.
Thank you, Costa Rica. I give the floor to Belgium, followed by Egypt. Belgium.
Madam Chair, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, I deliver this statement on behalf of the European Union and its member states. The European Union would like to thank the co-facilitators, Chile and Argentina, for their commendable efforts in bringing forward the resolution on promoting care and support for social development. we appreciate the constructive spirit that has guided our discussions, leading to the consensual adoption of this important resolution. The EU underscores the significance of this resolution that recognizes the crucial role that care and support play in our societies. This resolution aligns with the EU's commitment to advancing comprehensive social protection schemes, fostering an environment that supports both caregivers and care receivers. We understand that the construction of care and support systems has to lay its foundations on the strong pillars of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, all relevant international human rights instruments, international conventions, and treaties, including international labor conventions, which contain provisions relevant to persons providing and receiving care and support. We believe that robust, resilient care and support systems must be human rights-based, gender-responsive, disability-inclusive, and age-sensitive. The importance of upholding human rights, labor rights, and women's rights in the establishment of robust care and support systems cannot be overstated. The European Union firmly believes that these principles are foundational to creating inclusive, equitable, and sustainable societies. By ensuring the protection of these rights, we can build care systems that leave no one behind, promoting dignity and equal opportunities for all. While we appreciate the constructive efforts that went into shaping this resolution, we must express our regret that certain paragraphs lack the ambition needed to address the multifaceted challenges associated with care and support. The European Union believes that the resolution should have included more robust references to intersectionality, acknowledging the multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination that both caregivers and care receivers may face, and ensuring that our approach is comprehensive and inclusive. Additionally, we regret having lost some references to autonomy in the text. Autonomy is a fundamental aspect of individual agency and choice, and its inclusion is essential for a holistic and person-centered approach to care, especially for persons with disabilities. The European Union remains committed to advancing the objectives outlined in this resolution and working in collaboration with all member states and other relevant stakeholders to ensure its effective implementation. The EU further commits to advancing the agenda of care and support and the consideration of the issue at the 64th session of the Commission for Social Development. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now give the floor to Egypt, followed by the United States.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Madam Chairperson, my delegation takes note of the initiative by a group of countries to introduce the regional priorities into the Commission on Social Development. And I repeat, the issue of care and support remains largely a regional priority where it has advanced in terms of discussions, while it lacks that maturity in other regions. And this is an issue that has to be, or a perspective that has to be taken into consideration. It is an issue that has not been fully explored in a holistic manner, and it transcends what is being termed as the care economy, a term that does not have a clear definition, as well as labor issues or the decent work agenda, and also the human rights aspect. So it is not limited to any or a collection of all of those. It has actually a social dimension. And being in the CSocD, so it has to have that social development dimension, especially when it is addressed here. So it has to be grounded into the social development principles and pillars as they appear in the Copenhagen Declaration and Program of Action, which remain relevant until now. And my delegation does not share the view that the ILO should be the leading entity within the UN system to address this issue due to its limited mandate on the world of work, as well as its unique structure of membership. The issue of care and support has a relation to the overall cultural context of nations and should be customized accordingly. It relates to the structure of social relations, and it has to recognize the centrality of the role of the family as the group unit of society where care and support is provided to its members, taking into consideration the intergenerational aspects of it. We acknowledge the disproportionate burden sharing carried out by women and girls in providing care and support, and hence the need to address the unequal burden sharing in this regard, with a view to ensure removing impediments to the empowerment of women and girls, including in the economic sphere, and their economic independence and empowerment. In addition, states have the responsibility to create and consolidate institutions and policy and programmatic measures to assist the family in providing the care and support to its members in full respect for their human rights. This includes, but not limited to, family-oriented policies, including addressing the conditions of poverty and the provision of an adequate standard of living, including housing, safe drinking water and sanitation, in addition to quality education, quality health care, just to name a few. My delegation wishes to thank the facilitators of the resolution who were able to advance the text of the draft resolution from the zero draft to the text that we have just adopted, and they did respond and listen to the concerns of member states that have been voiced in the room, and we thank them for their flexibility in this regard. However, we still have reservations on the reference to the outcome documents of review conferences of the Beijing Declaration Program of Action and the ICPD, the International Conference on Population and Development. These are documents that are not recognized, and we are not bound by them, and we remain faithful and committed to the original documents, the Beijing Declaration and the ICPD. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Egypt. I will give the floor to the United States.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United States would like to thank Chile and Argentina and the GRULAC Core Group for this initiative. The United States recognizes the importance of care and support systems for all people, especially children, youth, persons with disabilities, older persons, and members of historically marginalized communities, including LGBTQI+ persons. We value paid and unpaid care providers who are disproportionately women and girls. As a general matter, we underscore that this resolution is a non-binding document that does not create rights or obligations under international law and does not change the current state of conventional or customary international law. Among other things, this applies to the principle that the best interests of the child should be a primary consideration in all actions concerning children, which is derived from the Convention on the Rights of the Child and the prohibition on collective expulsions set forth in Protocol No. 4 to the European Convention on Human Rights. The United States is not a party to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and while the United States does not take into account the best interests of the child in certain immigration actions, it is not always a primary consideration in the immigration context. We also note that we understand the rights of indigenous peoples are referring to the framework laid out in the United Nations Declaration on the Rights to Indigenous Peoples. We continue to express our political commitment to UNDRIP as detailed in our 2010 Statement of Support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the United States. I do not see any further requests for the floor, and hence, I will take it that the Commission wishes to adopt draft resolution E/CN5/2024/L5 and recommend it to the Economic and Social Council for its adoption. I hear no objection. It is so decided. Now, does any delegation wish to make a statement after the adoption of the draft resolution? No, so I will next invite the Commission to consider draft resolution E/CN5/2024/L6 entitled Social Dimensions of the New Partnership for Africa's Development. I thank the representative of South Africa for having facilitated the consultations on the draft resolution, and I wish to inform the Commission that the draft resolution has no program budget implications. I now give the floor to the representative of Uganda to introduce draft resolution E/CN5/2024/L6 entitled Social Dimensions of the New Partnership for Africa's Development on behalf of the Group of 77 and China. Uganda, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to introduce the draft resolution of the social dimensions of the new Partnership for Africa's Development, NEPAD, on behalf of the Group of 77 and China. The resolution in the Commission for Social Development has always sought to give prominence to the social dimensions of Africa's development. The G77 and China actively continues to advocate for the fulfillment of the commitments made in the Copenhagen Programme of Action adopted at the World Summit for Social Development. Chair, we are honored to have the opportunity to present one of the few annual resolutions within the Commission for Social Development. Unfortunately, this year, the resolution is presented as a technical update due to the report of the Secretary General on the resolution in question only being published in the official 6 languages of the United Nations on the 8th of February 2024, which is a day after the deadline for submission of draft proposals on 7th February 2024. Although regrettable, it is worth noting that this should not be a repeated occurrence, as the G77 and China, being a diverse group itself, value the principle of multilingualism and will endeavor to ensure that all states are afforded the fair opportunity to participate meaningfully in their own languages. Distinguished delegates, in this regard, the G77 and China wish to impress upon the Secretariat and the Office of the Secretary General to assist us in future by publishing the report on the social dimensions of the new Partnership for Africa's Development, NEPAD, timelessly and in all official languages of the United Nations prior to the start of the session. It is through this collective effort and cooperation that issues of the African continent will be afforded the due and rightful level of importance in this fora. Chair, it goes without saying that this is the only NEPAD resolution which addresses social dimensions within this context. This was a missed opportunity to highlight the implementation of the NEPAD agenda on the continent of Africa. This year we would have continued to focus on some of the advances made on the continent in various areas, such as financing for development, the African peer review mechanism, the elimination of female genital mutilation, the program for infrastructure development in Africa, the African Medicines Agency, a just transition through a just transition approach to tackle climate change, the African Common Position on Food Systems, the African Union International Center for Girls and Women's Education in Africa, the Africa Free Trade Agreement reflected on the first 10-year plan of Agenda 2063, among many others. Distinguished delegates, the approach this year was to have a technical update while taking into consideration the tight timeline of negotiations within the Commission. This was once again accomplished with the cooperation and utmost flexibility of the wider membership to which the G77 and China is deeply appreciative. It is in keeping with this same spirit of collaboration that we invite all member states to co-sponsor the resolution from the floor today. Finally, we wish to express our gratitude to the confidence of the G77 and China to continue to facilitate the NEPAD resolution on an annual basis. The G77 and China would like to take this opportunity to express its gratitude to the Bureau and all delegations with special reference to South African Permanent Mission for their support and valued contributions throughout the duration of the 62nd session of the Commission of the Social Development. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Uganda. I will now give the floor to the Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If any other delegation not a member of the Group of 77 in China wishes to co-sponsor Draft Resolution L6, please signify by pressing the microphone button. I see Turkey. That completes the list. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Does any delegation now wish to make a statement in connection with Draft Resolution L6? The United States, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United States is pleased to join consensus on this text today, and we thank the facilitators for this resolution. To clarify U.S. positions in the text on the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, trade issues, illicit financial flows, asset recovery, and a purported right to development, We refer you to our explanation of position to last year's resolution, which is available on our mission's website. Thank you.
I thank the United States, and I do not have any further request, so I will take it that the Commission wishes to adopt draft decision E/CN5/2024/L6 and recommend it to the Economic and Social Council for its adoption. I hear no objection, and I will take it that it is so decided. Does any delegation wish to make a statement after the adoption of the draft resolution? I see no request, so I will further proceed. I now invite the Commission to resume its consideration of Agenda Item 3A on the priority theme in order to take action on draft resolution E/CN5/2023/L4 entitled Fostering Social Development and Social Justice through Social Policies to Accelerate Progress on the Implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and to achieve the overarching goal of poverty eradication, which I have submitted as the chair of the Commission and on the basis of informal consultations. I take this opportunity to thank delegations for the spirit of cooperation and flexibility shown during the negotiations. I wish to inform the Commission that the draft resolution has no program budget implications. Now, does any delegation wish to make a statement in connection with the draft resolution? The United States, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United States is pleased to join consensus on this text today, and we thank India for its steadfast facilitation of this resolution. However, we would like to clarify U.S. positions regarding some of the language contained in the text. We underscore our position that trade language, negotiated or adopted by the General Assembly and the Economic and Social Council, or under their auspices, has no relevance for U.S. trade policy, as well as for our trade obligations or commitments. This includes calls to adopt approaches that may undermine incentives for innovation, such as technology or knowledge transfer, that is not both voluntary and on mutually agreed terms. As a general matter, we underscore that this resolution is a non-binding document that does not create rights or obligations under international law. It does not change the current state of conventional or customary international law. We further note that the right to development is not recognized in any of the core UN human rights conventions, does not have an agreed international meaning, and, unlike with human rights, is not recognized as a universal right held and enjoyed by individuals in which every individual may demand from his or her own government. Indeed, we continue to be concerned that the right to development identified within the text protects states instead of individuals. The United States does not agree that the right to development is vital for the 2030 Agenda, nor that it should be central to its implementation. We therefore disassociate from PP14 or PP14 bis and will reject its inclusion in further negotiations. The United States notes that the text several times refers to indigenous peoples. Given the context of these paragraphs, the United States understands these references to refer to indigenous persons. We also note an objection to the use of the phrase local communities, given the absence of a consensus as to what this phrase precisely means in this context. The general conflation of local communities with indigenous peoples that has been occurring in various multilateral spaces is problematic, as indigenous peoples are recognized as a distinct constituency within the United Nations and have certain specific collective rights that do not apply to local communities, however defined. The United States disagrees with the assertion that extreme poverty may amount to a threat to the right to life. Article 6 of the ICCPR prohibits the arbitrary deprivation of life by state actors. We do not believe that a state's duty to protect the right to life by law would extend to addressing general conditions in society or nature that may eventually threaten life or prevent individuals from enjoying an adequate standard of living. The United States strongly supports the realization of the right to education, but not language that attempts to define or expand that right. As educational matters in the United States are primarily determined at the state and local levels, we understand that when resolutions attempt to define, direct, or prescribe various aspects of education, or call on states to strengthen, ensure, or address them, including curricula, quality programs, or policies. This is done in terms consistent with our respective federal, state, and local authorities. Also, although important and to be encouraged, promoting lifelong learning opportunities is not essential to helping people overcome poverty and vulnerability. The United States understands the intention of the inclusion of equal pay for work of equal value to promote pay equity and non-discriminatory compensation. The United States implements that by observing the principle of equal pay for equal work. While the United States acknowledges the UN system increasingly uses the term illicit financial flows, we continue to have concerns that this term lacks an agreed-upon international definition. Member states should continue to focus on preventing and combating the crimes that facilitate and contribute to illicit financial flows. We also recognize the importance of asset recovery and return as part of a holistic fight against corruption. We are proud to be a global leader in asset recovery, and while we note the United Nations Convention Against Corruption does not use the term countries of origin or require confiscated assets to be returned to such countries, the United States will continue to prioritize returning confiscated assets to the people harmed by corruption whenever possible. Thank you.
I thank the United States, and I give the floor to Qatar.
شكرا سيدة رئيسة.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I am honored to make this statement on behalf of the delegations of the Gulf Cooperation Council, the United Arab Emirates, the Kingdom of Bahrain, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the Sultanate of Oman, Kuwait, and my country, Qatar. The states of the Gulf Cooperation Council would like to thank the facilitators of this draft resolution during the informal consultations that took place. Our countries reiterate the importance of the theme of this resolution in light of the efforts that seek to achieve and implement the Sustainable Development Agenda for 2030 and the need to promote social development and social justice in order to accelerate progress on implementation of the agenda. The states have rallied behind the consensus behind this draft, and we wish to highlight a number of terms that feature in the draft resolution, notably those under paragraphs 39, 48, and 22, and the controversial and non-consensual language that goes against our traditional culture and values. We are opposed to references and the use of these language and these expressions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Qatar. There are no further requests for the floor, and I take it that the Commission wishes to adopt draft resolution E/CN5/2024/L4 and recommend it to the Economic and Social Council for its adoption. I see no objection. It is so decided. Malaysia, do you wish to take the floor after the adoption of the draft resolution, or was it before? After. So you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Malaysia remains committed in its endeavour to eradicate poverty through a whole-of-nation approach. The goal to eradicate poverty stems from our dedication to accelerate progress on the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Malaysia has taken progressive efforts to foster inclusive social development premised on the concept of leaving no one behind. In the matter of the resolution of the priority team, Malaysia appreciates the efforts of India in facilitating the discussion on the text. We are fully aware that it was a challenging task given the diverse positions on member states on a number of issues contained in the resolution. Malaysia supports and respects the spirit of consensus in the adoption of the resolution on the priority team. At the same time, we believe that it is important for the Commission to consider the interests and concerns of all member states on this matter. While we appreciate that there are references to the family in the resolution, we are of the view that the importance of family, particularly in its role and significance in eradicating poverty, deserves increased emphasis. Malaysia also notes that the resolution continues to maintain references to the ambiguous terms, multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination in operative paragraphs 48 and 52. In this regard, Malaysia wishes to put on record that its interpretation of multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination will be based on its national laws, values and customs, and does not include any concepts that are inconsistent with the existing international human rights architecture. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Malaysia. Meantime, 8 delegations have requested for the floor. I will give the floor first to Egypt, followed by Libya.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Madam Chairperson, my delegation thanks the Chair and the Facilitator in preparing and leading the informal consultations on this resolution, acknowledging that it was not an easy process. We very much supported the exercise that has been carried out by the Facilitator in streamlining the text, making it more focused on the theme, the priority theme for this year, which is of great importance to us developing countries, especially when it features the emphasis on ending poverty in all its forms and dimensions, especially being the overarching goal of the Sustainable Development Agenda, Agenda 2030. We acknowledge the development of the text reflecting or attempting to reflect the views of member states, and we take note of the efforts of the Bureau also to advance the text and resolve pending issues between delegations. However, my delegation remains concerned about the attempt of a number of delegations to impose languages and references that do not have a real definition that we can work with at the national level. And these include, and specifically include, references to multiple intersecting forms of discrimination. These are terms that have no definitions and cannot be translated into national legislation, for example, especially the reference that comes in what is now OP 42 bis until the numbering gets corrected in the final document, where it also references multiple intersecting forms of violence, which is something that is very difficult actually to define and act upon also in the policies as well as in the legislative context and the legal nature of such references. And it is really regrettable that the discussion has gone in the direction of not discussing ideas and how we can improve a text in terms of substance, but actually being diminished and being very superficial in discussing references and insisting on references that do not have a meaning, and putting it as an obligation on states, despite listening to a number of delegations saying that these documents are not binding to delegations. So I wonder why we are sitting in this context to look into language and negotiate the language that we adopt. So we remain committed to implementing the resolution in the areas where we agree in our national context. My delegation dissociates from paragraph OP 39 and OP 42 bis, where there are references to multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination or multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination and violence. These are terms that we do not recognize, and we dissociate from this. And this is part of our standing persistent objection to the inclusion of such language, and this will be taken up in future sessions of the Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Egypt. Libya, you have the floor, followed by Hungary.
Madam Chair, my delegation would like to thank India for its leadership in facilitating the negotiation process for this important resolution on the priority theme for this session. The Government of National Unity of the State of Libya is committed to fostering social development and social justice to accelerate progress on the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and also to achieve the overarching goal of the eradication of poverty. Madam Chair, honorable delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the objective pursued by this text overlaps in many aspects with our national interests and priorities. That is why my delegation joined the consensus on this resolution. Nevertheless, we are bewildered by the insistence on introducing non-consensual terminology that has been refused by many member states in the past, such as multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination, and women and girls in diverse situations and conditions. The speaker repeats the statement in Arabic. We would have liked to see agreed language that is accepted by all stakeholders, such as all forms of discrimination or violence. While we are concerned that such language risks diluting the impact of our collective endeavors, we would like to reiterate that Libya understands and will implement these resolutions in accordance with its national laws and regulations and in line with its social, cultural, and religious values. In this context, my delegation wishes to put on record its reservations on and its disassociation from the whole or any part of these resolutions that contradicts such values. This includes operative paragraphs number 48 and 52 of the resolution. In the future, it is our hope that the Commission's resolutions will address the legitimate concerns of Member States in order to achieve a truly consensual text. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Libya. Hungary, you have the floor, followed by Iran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hungary has supported. Thank you, Madam Chair. Hungary has supported adoption of resolution, the priority theme of the 62nd session of the Commission, as it contains a large number of valuable provisions on the contribution of social policies to achieving social justice, accelerating implementation of the 2030 Agenda, and eradicating poverty globally. However, we would like to take this opportunity to put on record Hungary's position on pre-umbrella paragraph 17, as well as operational paragraphs 18, 20, and 32 bis. We are concerned that randomly singling out different actors and marginalized groups, such as migrants, might have an implication of excluding others who are equally vulnerable and deserve equal attention from the international community. Furthermore, we also recall that Hungary voted against the Global Compact for safe, regular, and orderly migration and does not take part in its implementation either. Hungary is of the view that migration doesn't have a positive development impact on all countries involved, and the international community should instead focus on providing assistance locally by creating stable and secure conditions, thereby assuring that people can stay in their homeland in peace and prosperity. Having this in mind and considering the importance of the goals and priorities set out in this text, Hungary joined the consensus but would like to dissociate itself from the above-mentioned paragraphs. Thank you.
Thank you, Hungary. Iran, you have the floor, followed by Cameroon.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. My delegation has been taking the floor to express the explanation of its position for all resolutions have been adopted today. First of all, it is my delegation's pleasure to express its gratitude to you and other members of the Bureau as well as the Secretariat for their tireless efforts that led to the successful conclusions of this session. My delegation's thanks also go to you and your colleagues in India mission for your able leadership during the negotiations for the resolution on the priority theme, and also to our colleagues from Chile and Argentina in regard with the resolution entitled Promoting Care and Support Systems for Social Development, and our colleagues from Uganda as the chair of G77 plus China in regard with the resolution of Nepal. My delegation commends on all facilitators and co-facilitators for their valuable contributions to the success of negotiations. Their dedication to fostering cooperation and consensus building serves as a testament to the spirit of multilateralism and the principles upon which this esteemed body was founded. Madam Chair, the Islamic Republic of Iran joined the consensus on all resolutions due to our understanding that the provisions of these resolutions and their implementation are in line with our national laws and legislations, cultural backgrounds, and national development priorities. In this regard, Iran dissociates itself from any paragraph recalling or recognizing documents that are not accepted by Iran, including from outcome documents of review conferences of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, and the Program of Action of the International Conference on Population and Development. Furthermore, we assume that any references to non-consensual as well as contentious terminologies, including but not limited to multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination and gender equality contained in any of these resolutions, refer to the dedicated subject of respective resolutions, and that such references shall not be construed as precedent or agreed language in future negotiations regarding subsequent priority themes or other resolutions. I thank you.
Thank you, Iran, and thank you for your gracious comments directed towards my delegation. I will give the floor to Cameroon, followed by the Holy See.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I have the honor of making this intervention on behalf of the African Group. The group welcomes the adoption by the Commission of Social Development on the resolution on its priority theme for this year by consensus. The group joined the consensus of this resolution. The group also notes with great appreciation the reference to the right to development in its adopted resolution. This is a very important issue for the whole of Africa and many other parts of the globe. We invite all member states in the Commission to continue to engage constructively in bridging gaps around this right that is most relevant to the world today. Madam Chair, distinguished delegates, it is the view of the African Group that the centrality and the indispensability of the family in Africa as a fundamental unit in society should be strengthened, protected, to play a vital role in the continent's political, cultural, and social-economic development. The improvement of family welfare through stronger policy, targeting poverty eradication, and fostering international solidarity could therefore increase the prospect of achieving Agenda 2030 and other social development objectives. The group also believes that the enjoyment by all women and girls of as agents of change of their human rights, including their social, economic, and cultural rights, is crucial for transforming society and is a step forward in eradicating poverty. In conclusion, Madam Chair, we remain heartened by that the theme of this year's CSocD is clearly mirroring the Agenda 2030 and its Sustainable Development Goal in line with NEPAD and African Union Agenda 2063, which represent truly a path toward ensuring that no one is left behind. We also strongly believe that the social dimension should be given more space in the process and outcomes of the Summit of the Future. The African Group, as a unit of negotiation, looks forward to contributing to next year's session. We thank all group and delegation for their cooperation during the negotiation. I thank you, Madam Chair.
And we thank you, Cameroon. I will give the floor now to the Holy See, followed by Mexico.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Holy See would like to thank you for your leadership during this commission and express our appreciation to your team, in particular to Ms. Suman Sonkar for her facilitation of the resolution on the priority theme. The Holy See welcomes the focus of the text on the centrality of poverty eradication to achieving social development, including the recognition of the importance of social protection and the particular challenges faced by developing countries. Additionally, my delegation appreciates the inclusion of language relating to the need to ensure quality and affordable health care and education, and challenges related to access to the same. These are all key elements to achieving development. In this 30th anniversary of the International Year of the Family, it is more important than ever that we recognize the importance of the family, which is the natural and fundamental group unit of society and entitled to protection by society and the state, as recognized in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It is therefore laudable that this anniversary was given due recognition within the text. My delegation also appreciates Ms. Sonkar's leadership and the willingness of all delegations to work together to agree to further strengthening language on the family within the text. It is our hope that this positive collaboration continues further in support of the family in future years. The text presented made a number of reasonable edits to streamline the previous year's theme and focus on this year's priority theme. While appreciating that many of the elements streamlined are in themselves valuable, it is somewhat regrettable that there was not greater support for the facilitator's efforts in this regard. This was particularly challenging with regard to terminology which is known to be controversial and which did not receive full consideration. Such discussions, while challenging, should not be delayed any further and must form part of the deliberations in the next session. Madam Chair, in conformity with its nature and particular mission, the Holy See is obliged to make the following reservations on the text adopted. The Holy See understands the term gender as grounded in biological sexual identity, male or female. And with reference to multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination, the Holy See recognizes that the expression lacks a definition agreed between governments, lending itself to an interpretation that reduces the human person to particular characteristics and categorizes individuals according to artificial and selective criteria that are not universally acknowledged, thereby undermining the universality of human rights. The Holy See reaffirms that everyone is entitled to human rights and fundamental freedoms without distinction of any kind, as defined by Article 2 of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much to the Holy See, and we deeply appreciate your kind sentiments directed towards the delegation of India. Mexico, you have the floor, followed by Djibouti.
Gracias, señora.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mexico thanks the delegation of India for presenting this important draft resolution. We also thank the facilitator for her good work throughout the negotiation process. There is no doubt that achieving consensus on the priority theme of this Commission represents a success for the Bureau and all members that it should be achieved in this session. Social development involves many factors that need to be taken into account to achieve this. This requires bringing together different perspectives on each of these factors. It is nevertheless clear that when there is will to achieve common goals, the efficiency of multilateralism and diplomacy necessarily leads us to a successful outcome. In particular, my delegation welcomes all references to concrete measures to achieve the eradication of poverty and associated ills such as hunger, the lack of decent employment, gender inequality, and different forms of discrimination in a context of respect for the human rights of all. Finally, my delegation wishes to explain its position on preambular paragraph 30. We understand and we share the commotion that was generated by the possibility of organizing the summit in 2025 based on the recommendation of the SG in his report on our common agenda. We agree that very soon a resolution will be adopted in plenary of the General Assembly that will ask the President to assign co-facilitators for the corresponding consultation process on the modalities of this summit. Nevertheless, my delegation wishes to clarify that at the third committee of the General Assembly, Mexico dissociated itself from any interpretation that may lead one to conclude that the global social summit should only be focused on certain aspects of development. We trust that when the time comes for the corresponding co-facilitators to be appointed and to begin consultation, all voices will be heard in order to be able to include as many factors, the contributing factors to social development, to be taken into account in order to facilitate future sessions. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I will give the floor to Djibouti, followed by Nigeria. Djibouti, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, distinguished delegates, once again we are heartened to witness another brilliantly conducted session of the Commission. My delegation aligns itself with the statement delivered on behalf of the African Group by Cameroon, and we would like to make the following remarks in our national capacity. We applaud the spirit of understanding that prevailed during this session, culminating in the adoption by consensus of several resolutions. This has made the Commission more productive than ever before. On the priority theme, today we adopted a resolution on the eradication of poverty in all its forms and dimensions, referencing the right to development as the Commission strove to its consensus adoption. This is not merely another simple resolution, but it epitomizes and illustrates the growing and emerging global consensus regarding the right to development. For Djibouti, the Agenda 2030 and its SDGs are the brainchild of the right to development. The reference of this right in this resolution is therefore extremely crucial for us. We are also grateful to all delegations for their cooperation. We also extend our gratitude to the facilitator, Ms. Suman, who has demonstrated patience and skills during negotiations. Madam Chair, this resolution, however, brings forth multiple other issues that it will be wise and prudent for the Commission to ponder and reflect upon. Indeed, the multiple references to multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination, MIFD, have often created multiple unnecessary obstacles impeding the consensus on multiple occasions where it could have been easily reached. Should the Commission continue to encounter similar obstacles as observed in this session, we may risk weakening the prevailing consensus spirit, and chairing delegations may then be able to fashion and tailor texts according to their own tastes and preferences. We reject interpretations of discrimination that include categories that are not internationally recognized or endorsed by our national laws and policies. But despite these concerns, my delegation found it possible to lend its support to this resolution. Madam Chair, distinguished delegates, the success of this session should not be confined to this Commission alone. We believe that delegations are well prepared to disseminate it to the CSW agreed conclusions, especially as it is also focusing on poverty eradication this year. Every effort must be made to take stock of all available opportunities and not to overlook another good occasion to replicate the success achieved here, even if it sometimes entails and requires a bittersweet compromise. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Djibouti. I'll give the floor to Nigeria, followed by Mali.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My delegation aligns itself to the statement delivered by Cameroon on behalf of African Group and hereby makes the following remarks in our national capacity. We support the adoption of the resolution on its priority theme for 62nd session of the Commission on Social Development by consensus. The resolution is so important to my delegation in ensuring eradication of poverty and provision of quality treatment and care is given to all as a step that must be taken in consolidating ongoing global efforts to achieve social development. Nigeria commends the inclusion of right to development in the resolution as an integral step toward the achievement of the Agenda 2030. My delegation would like to encourage the Commission of Social Development and ECOSOC to continue mainstreaming right to development in all further resolutions. We welcome the whole amendment with regard to the inclusion of some non-consensual languages with references to multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination, which is open to misinterpretation. We do not agree with any interpretation that includes categories of discrimination that are not internationally agreed or that are not recognized in our national laws and policies. As the first resolution on the International Year of the Family affirmed over 30 years ago, that's Resolution 44/82, the goal of the observance of the International Year of the Family was to create among governments, policymakers, and the public a greater awareness of the family as the natural and fundamental group unit of society. Today, there are powerful forces actively attempting to erase this awareness. As we commemorate the 30th anniversary of the International Year of the Family, I want to emphasize that any reference to the family and family policy in this resolution should be understood in line with this goal. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I'll give the floor to Mali, followed by Senegal, Syria, and that seems to conclude my list. Mali, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Taking the floor for the first time, I wish to express to you and the Bureau the warmest thanks of my delegation for leading our work so successfully. The delegation of Mali aligns itself with the statement made by Cameroon on behalf of the African group, and we thank the facilitating team for their efforts. However, we would have liked to see a greater highlighting of the role of the family, as well as concrete actions against poverty. When it comes to the maintenance of terms that are not consensual at the international level, in particular, multiple and intersection forms of discrimination, is something that we will only implement in accordance with our laws and our values. I would ask the Secretariat to include this in the procès-verbal of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Senegal, followed by the Syrian Arab Republic. Senegal, you have the floor.
Je vous remercie, Madame la...
I thank you, Madam Chair. My delegation thanks the delegation of India for the negotiations on this important resolution aimed at addressing the many crises that have affected the world as a whole. The many challenges facing the world today spares no part of our society. Like the international community, Senegal is aware that this situation has affected the implementation of the 2030 agenda and has led to increasing social inequalities and poverty. This is why my government has taken measures to protect vulnerable groups and to ensure gender equality by bolstering social protection systems, in particular for youth, the elderly, persons with disabilities, and women. For example, we have a national program for family subsidies. We have universal medical coverage and community development plans, as well as education programs and programs to protect childhood, to name but a few. However, we regret the systematic use of certain non-consensual terms in this resolution that does not facilitate the inclusion of all actors and risks to undermine our collective efforts. My delegation disassociates itself from the term multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination. My delegation would also like to stress that the concept of gender and all terms that would refer to it in Senegal refer only to relations between men and women. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I will give the floor to the Syrian Arab Republic.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I would like first to thank you for leading this committee and the adoption of all these resolutions and consensus. We'd like also to raise our appreciation to the facilitator, Ms. Souman, for the good work that was demonstrated during the many rounds of negotiations on this text. I know that achieving success or just reaching consensus among us is a highly difficult process, but she was able to manage it. We also highlight the importance of some of the concepts included in the text, especially the family and right to development as key elements to our society. And regarding some of the controversial terminologies that was mentioned in this text and other texts as well, Syria wishes to join the statement delivered by the distinguished representative of Iran. I thank you.
Morocco has asked for the floor. Thank you, Syria, and I give the floor to Morocco.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And first of all, allow me to take this opportunity to really thank you and congratulating you for, and your team as well, and the Bureau for the successful session. Second of all, I would like to thank also through you the secretariats for their hard work, and also the panelists who have traveled sometimes from far away to come to this committee and to present very important and crucial inputs to the discussions and deliberations. I'd like, third of all, to thank the representatives of civil society who are strong actors on the ground. They are the one who link us to the realities on the ground. So they have the very important perspective that without which we cannot actually have these kind of successful deliberations. Number four, regarding the substance, while there is the plenary part of it and there is the informal part of it, the plenary, there is a merit in the future. Maybe I suggest that we should at some point to think about changing the working methods of the committee. This committee is very important for us. This committee, without which without development, there is no peace, there is no preparation for future generations. We need development. However, how this committee is planned throughout the year at this exact time with multiple and intersecting conferences and processes taking place at the same time, it takes a little bit from the time of the committee, and which is really regretful, and we wanted to put this on the record. Being present in other negotiations and following the committee maybe through the virtual means is not something very easy for us. We would like to give our full time to this committee in future sessions and to think really carefully and rationally on where to program this committee so that it responds to the needs that we need to be part of it, and also to take into account larger participation of civil society. There is civil society also, we heard, and also other member states who heard that they are stuck between two committees. There is the CSocD taking place now and CSW in a couple of weeks from now. So it's a question of budget, it's a question of practicality and pragmatic way to move forward. So we need to think of all these issues because this committee is very important, I think, for all of us, but particularly for the Global South, for the developing countries, and the list is long. So last but not least, again, Madam Chair, you excelled and in your chairmanship, so I'd like to congratulate you for this successful session. Thank you.
Thank you, Morocco, for your graciousness, for your kindness, and for your many courtesies. And perhaps on behalf also of the Secretariat, thank you very much. Indeed, we all work in partnership, and nothing is possible in isolation. And I gratefully acknowledge your mention of all the work that goes on behind the scenes. Thank you very much. So I see no further requests for the floor. And I will say now that the Commission has concluded its consideration of Agenda Item 3 as a whole. I now invite the Commission to turn its attention to Agenda Item 5, titled Provisional Agenda of the 63rd Session of the Commission. The draft provisional agenda and documentation for the 63rd session of the Commission are contained in document E/CN5/2024/L1. Are there any comments on the draft provisional agenda as contained in document L1? Right, so I will take it that the Commission wishes to adopt the draft provisional agenda and documentation for its 63rd session as contained in document L1. I see no objection, and it is so decided. The Commission has thus concluded its consideration of Agenda Item 5, and I will now invite the Commission to consider Agenda Item 6, entitled Adoption of the Report of the Commission on its 62nd session, and I am pleased to give the floor to our distinguished Vice Chair cum Rapporteur, Ms. Stefanie Toski of Luxembourg, to introduce the draft report as contained in document E/CN5/2024/L2. Ms. Toski, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente. J'ai l'honneur de vous présenter le projet.
Thank you. It is an honor for me to present to you the draft report of the Commission for Social Development at this 62nd session. In this regard, the government has before it document E/CN.5/2024/L2, which contains an account of the work of our session. The final report will also reflect the action taken by the Commission under each agenda item, together with the text of all resolutions and the decisions as adopted by the Commission today. With respect to Section B on attendance of document E/CN5 2024 L2, I would like to recall that the official list of delegations of the session will be issued as document ECN5 2024 INF 1. The provisional list of participants was circulated through the e-delegate portal on 8 February. I would request delegations to kindly review the information contained in the list of participants and to submit through the portal or to the Secretariat any necessary changes no later than Tuesday, 20 February. I would also like to take this opportunity to remind delegations that have yet to do so to submit through the e-delegate portal, also no later than the 20th of February, the names of their delegates to this session of the Commission to include them in the final list. Before concluding, I would like to express, on behalf of the Bureau of our Commission, our profound appreciation to all facilitators and negotiators for their efforts, constructive engagement, and flexibility in the negotiation of our draft outcomes. Allow me also to express my gratitude to my colleagues from the Bureau and the Secretariat, who, under the judicious leadership of Ambassador Cambodge and her team, delivered a relevant set of debates and decisions on fostering social development and social justice through social policies. With that, Madam Chair, I commend this draft report to the Commission for its adoption. Thank you.
I thank the Rapporteur for her statement. Are there any comments on the draft report? I see that Egypt has requested for the floor. You have the floor.
Actually, it's not on the report, but what is in the report. And it is a commendation to the work of the Commission, and it proves that it is central to our work within the UN system. The Commission this year has had enriching discussions, the panel discussions and the panelists, and I thank whoever was in the process of choosing also the panelists for the panels that we've had, the high-level ones, as well as those from the UN agencies and the academicians who have participated. The panel on the family was very indicative, and the participation there until the last minute of the session, which didn't happen in other panel discussions, is indicative of how central the role of the family is and how key to our work and to the agenda of social development. So this attention and given to this panel is really exemplary. And the discussions were quite varied, and they were able to capture many aspects of how the family affects or is affected by challenges that may impact sustainable development at large, but also the theme for this year, which is poverty eradication and social justice. So we thank you, Madam Chair, for your leadership of the Commission and the Commission's work. We thank the Secretariat for the work done behind the scenes. We know it was very difficult, and we appreciate the work also that has been done by the facilitators on the draft resolutions leading to the adoption of those resolutions, despite the differences that we had on certain references in some of them, but it was a successful session, and we look forward to future sessions of the Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Egypt, for those kind words. I think I would agree with you. The discussions were very interesting and very intense sometimes, and the choice of speakers was also excellent. So thank you very much for that input. Are there any other comments on the draft report? If not, may I take it that the Commission wishes to adopt the draft report as contained in document L2 and agrees to entrust the rapporteur with its finalization with the support of the Secretariat, including to incorporate the proceedings of our final meeting today. I see no objection. I hear no objection. It is so decided. The Commission has thus concluded its consideration of Agenda Item 6. I will now invite the President of the Economic and Social Council, Her Excellency Paula Narvaez, to deliver her closing remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I thank the Chair, Her Excellency Mrs. Ruchira Kambodge, and the Bureau for inviting me to address the Commission at the closing of its 62nd session. And I congratulate her for her leadership as well. This session has been very timely and productive. The Commission's deliberations have identified bold and necessary measures that will improve the lives and livelihoods of our people. Allow me to summarize a few of the key messages that I will take away from your rich and insightful discussions. Your national statements have reaffirmed the importance of safeguarding progress on inclusive social development and of proposing strategies to address today's multiple global crises, including poverty eradication. We heard from countries that the lack of social protection and universal health coverage and unequal access to affordable quality education continue to hamper inclusive development and implementation of the 2030 Agenda. In addressing the influence of digital transformation on inclusive growth and development, we heard about the opportunities to leverage technologies for social justice while tackling a growing digital divide and ensuring equal and affordable access to digital technologies. Member States stressed the need to reform the international financial architecture and to strengthen multilateral cooperation and partnerships. Many countries have highlighted the opportunity that a World Social Summit in 2025 presents for advancing a socially aware and people-centered approach to development. Excellencies, as CSocD looks ahead to its work over the coming month, I assure you of further opportunities to carry these important messages forward to translate policy guidance into concrete actions. The CSocD Youth Forum in April will be a key platform for young people to engage. Their contribution to policy discussions affecting their future and to identifying youth-led priorities for the Summit of the Future will be imperative. Inclusive social development will be a critical aspect of those deliberations. The Financing for Development Forum in April will be another opportunity to reflect on the reform of the international financial architecture as discussed here. The Science, Technology and Innovation Forum in May can further advance discussions on the role of emerging technologies in achieving the SDGs. And the July HLPF will enable us to reflect across all pillars of sustainable development, social, economic, and environmental, to scale up implementation of the 2030 Agenda. Through a coherent approach to these important dialogues, I'm confident that CSocD will make a valuable contribution to the Summit of the Future and World Social Summit in 2025. I sincerely thank all members of the Commission for Social Development for your engagement and participation. I look forward to our continued collaboration throughout the work of the Council. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I thank the President of the CSocD for her statement. Thank you. President of the Economic and Social Council, Ms. Paula Narvaez, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. As we come to the closing of the 62nd session, I would like to highlight some of my takeaways from your deliberations. The meager financial resources continue to hamper national development and aspirations. We therefore need to urgently reform the international financial architecture, promote fair agricultural trade, and put in place other supportive international frameworks for taxation, for technology, and for climate change. You shared new policies and measures that have recently been launched while stressing the need to continue to scale up social protection, health coverage, and education for all. You spoke about how the food crises and famine conditions make it extremely challenging to implement the 2030 Agenda and its SDGs. In this regard, it was mentioned that we need to mobilize up to 4.5 trillion annually. You also emphasize the need to rebuild the social contract based on human rights, fundamental freedoms, and international labor standards. In commemorating the 30th anniversary of the International Year of the Family, you reiterated the need for human rights-based fertility policies and underscored the importance of addressing high levels of adolescent fertility, strengthening publicly funded reproductive health and social care, and placing family policies at the center of the social protection agenda. You also debated the importance of digital transformation as a path to realizing social justice and highlighted the urgency for targeted investments in digital public infrastructure for closing digital divides and ensuring that the unfolding digital transformation is inclusive and indeed leaves nobody behind. We reached an agreement on the priority theme of the 63rd session to be strengthening solidarity, social inclusion, and social cohesion to accelerate the delivery of the commitments of the Copenhagen Declaration on Social Development and Programme of Action of the World Summit for Social Development, as well as the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Quite a lengthy theme, I assure you. We also adopted 3 resolutions by consensus, one on this year's priority theme, one to promote care and support systems, and one on NAPAD. To conclude, I think we are all confident to say that this session was successful. Thank you. I kindly ask delegations to remain seated as the first meeting of the 63rd session will be convened immediately following the closure of this session, and I now have the pleasure to declare closed the 62nd session of the Commission for Social Development. The meeting is adjourned. As I promised, immediately after that, I declare open the 63rd session of the Commission for Social Development and call to order its first meeting. In accordance with Rule 15 of the Rules of Procedure of the Functional Commissions of the Economic and Social Council and Decision 2002/2010 of the Council, the Commission, immediately following the closure of a regular session, would hold the first meeting of its subsequent regular session for the sole purpose of electing the new chair and other members of the Bureau. I invite the Commission to turn its attention to item 1 of its provisional agenda, election of officers, and proceed with the election of the Bureau of the Commission. The Commission may wish to recall that in accordance with the principle of equitable geographical rotation among the 5 regional groups, it is the turn of the group of Eastern European states to hold the chairmanship of the 63rd session. I understand that the chair of the group of Eastern European states has communicated the nomination of His Excellency Krzysztof Maria Sterski, permanent representative of the Republic of Poland to the United Nations, as chair of the 63rd session of the Commission. In the absence of any other nominations, may I take it that the Commission wishes to elect by acclamation His Excellency Krzysztof Maria Sterski as chair of the 63rd session of the Commission for Social Development. I hear no objection. It is so decided. It is now my pleasure to declare His Excellency Krzysztof Maria Sterski, permanent representative of Poland to the United Nations, as chair of the 63rd session of the Commission for Social Development, and I invite him to make a statement. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Excellencies, dear colleagues, thank you for allowing me to say these few words. And I'm very grateful for all the member states entrusting me to be the chair of the Commission for its 63rd session. And I wholeheartedly congratulate also those who are going to be joined, who are going to join me in the Bureau in the upcoming decisions. As I mentioned in the statement delivered on behalf of the Republic of Poland during the general discussion, my country attaches a great importance to advancing the social development. I believe that the Commission's work is invaluable to this end, and as a UN body established to address this area of the UN's work with a long legacy to be cherished. I'm very pleased that the Commission has just adopted, and I noticed all the comments on that, the theme for the next session, which will feature solidarity as one of the avenues to implement the Agenda 2030 and other commitments. In Poland, we fully agree that the notion of solidarity deserves deeper recognition by the international community and translation into practical solutions. It has a special meaning to us, as our peaceful and successful economic and social transition has been guided by the idea of solidarity, and we are always ready to share this experience. From my end, I will spare no effort to ensure that the 63rd session of the Commission is as successful and as this 62nd, and I know the bar is high, so I know it won't be very easy. And I just want to congratulate Madam Chair for the excellent, and the Bureau, and for this excellent work and the contribution that for this outstanding outcome of this 62nd session. And please count on me on the next one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your statement. I have been informed that the group of Western European and other states has endorsed the candidature of Ms. Julia Eberl, First Secretary at the Permanent Mission of Austria to the United Nations, and the Permanent Mission of Guatemala has nominated Ms. Paola Andrea Morris Garrido, Counselor at the Permanent Mission of Guatemala to the United Nations, as Vice Chairs of the Commission for its 63rd session. So there you are, you have Austria and Guatemala as the Vice Chairs. In the absence of any other nominations, may I take it that the Commission wishes to elect by acclamation Ms. Julia Eberl of Austria and Ms. Paola Andrea Morris Garrido of Guatemala as Vice Chairs of the 63rd session of the Commission for Social Development. I hear no objection. It is so decided. On behalf of the Commission, I would like to congratulate the elected members of the Bureau. The Commission will postpone the elections of the remaining members of the Bureau from the group of African states and the group of Asia-Pacific states to a later date, on the understanding that upon nomination by the regional groups for membership, the nominated members of the Commission would be allowed to participate fully in the Bureau meetings in preparation for the Commission's 63rd session. The first meeting of the 63rd session of the Commission is hereby adjourned. Thank you all.